Then why don't we build families on purpose? Seem like so easy. They attack the community on purpose, but then we don't uplift the community on purpose. Hey man, sometimes shit is simple. Sometimes shit is simple. Definitely looking forward to this right here. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know this is the G Pod. This is going to be a great episode talking more about this institution of marriage, which is something I think is just greatly undervalued in our community. I get that a lot of us have doubts and we stress about this idea of marriage and commitment with a partner, etc. And I understand it completely. It is a very tough decision to make. It has a lot of risk involved with the decision. And ultimately, that mix of the risk with the emotions and what you stand to potentially lose if it goes wrong, I get it. But that's why it's worth it. Nothing worth anything is easy. Nothing worth anything has low risk. The lower the risk, the lower the worth. This is just, I didn't make this up. So marriage is high risk, but it is also high reward. That's what this next episode is going to talk about, because we as a community, I've said on a prior episode that I feel like that we as a community, we have undervalued the institution of marriage over time. And I think it's something to consider because, I've talked about this on prior episodes. I descend from what I call Black American slavery. When you descend from Black American slavery, it's such a unique experience. You didn't ask to be here. You were brought here against your will. So many layers to that journey, which is a whole slew of episodes in itself, because there are a lot of parties involved in the transatlantic slave trade, and all of them weren't white, just being honest. We won't get into that right now, but when you descended from Black American slaves, here's the thing that I think, at least it resonates with me the most. Black slaves were not allowed to have human lives. Literally. It was against the law for them to be literate, for them to gather, being well-read. It was against the law if you were a slave. A lot of your traditions that you kept or that you already had before coming over, a lot of that was stripped away. And so as a Black American, a lot of what we embrace culturally, it wasn't necessarily by choice. And when I look at all of the things that we have adopted and passed it along from one generation to the next, I look at how widely we accept certain elements and use it as a tool to bring us together and have faith in something more than ourselves. The Black church, for example, Christianity. Black Americans have adopted that religion and arguably have used it to their advantage. You could make that argument. What I know to be true, one of the key things that people in power did to slaves to ensure that they stayed in power was that they dismantled the families early and often. They separated children from their mothers. They separated men from their wives and their families. They took mothers out of the home. No regard for Black families. In fact, an intent to tear apart Black families, to weaken the community. That's what when I say they, people in power, that's what they organized intentionally to keep us at our lowest point for as long as possible. These are the facts. The lack of family in any community, it's detrimental. These are the facts. And when it comes to Black American slaves, that has been a target on our community as soon as we got to this part of the world. They tore apart our families. When you fast forward to today, one of the biggest things that we struggle with as a community is the element of family. I believe in large part because of this institution of marriage. It meant something different then than what it does now. I get that. Patriarchy, misogyny, women didn't have rights. I get all of that. I get that. But what I would like to say is that before we got here, we understood the value of families. Before we got here. Culturally, when you look around, most cultures understand the value of family, the importance of sticking together. I truly believe marriage is so valuable to our community and what we can get out of each other. Marriages help establish stronger families, in my opinion, and stronger families are the foundations in which we build stronger communities. I am a big advocate for the institution of marriage. Now, do I think everyone should just be getting married? No, I think you should be getting married for the right reasons. I don't necessarily think marriage in itself is for everyone, but we will talk about that on this episode. But more specifically, because before you have a marriage, there's a few things that take place. And we can make arguments about where they come from and blah, 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 blah. The white man said we got to give him a ring and blah, 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 blah. I just want to be clear. Even before the quote unquote white man said we had to give him rings, if you was in the motherland, you was going to have to give up some cows, something, all cultures. Hey, look, you can't just get married and not exchange something to the family in good faith. Everything ain't as big of a as you might think. There's order. There are rules, if you will, natural rules, natural order. These concepts existed long before we even came here. When I just look at marriage and why I think so many of us in our community struggle with marriage, I think a lot of it has to do before we even get married. And that's what this episode wants to focus on today. The thing that ultimately has become the condition. It's now an ultimatum, it's a prerequisite to get married when it should not be. It should not be. It should be a celebration. But now it's treated as a prerequisite. And I want to discuss how I think we can approach this prerequisite in a way that actually benefits marriage long-term versus setting you up for short-term failures. The wedding. Marriages are not about weddings. Weddings should not be a prerequisite to get married. That's what we're going to talk about on this next episode. I think I'm decently warmed up. If you don't know, definitely shouting out Old Hillside, man. Brothers been doing their thing. I copped a couple bottles of the centennial release, celebrating 100 years of Hillside High School, one of local staples in the community. Predominantly, I would say, Black high school in Durham. A lot of history there. And the four graduates came together from Hillside, built a business. And I can't even front, man. I can't think of a better business than this bourbon right here, man. What a great story. Shout out to Old Hillside. We're about wrapping up the pre-show. Gonna talk about this prereq for the marriage. A better way to approach it, in my opinion, to help sustain your marriage. Whole other conversation. When they want to get married when they want to have a wedding more than they want to be married. No. We gonna talk about it. Oh yeah, soundboard is warmed up. And hey, look, I can only speak from my experience, so.
It doesn't matter how you feel.
These are the facts. These are the facts. Weddings are not prerequisites to getting married. We're gonna talk about how to have a healthier approach to that process altogether. And I'm actually gonna speak from experience. I'm not here to talk about stuff that I don't do or haven't done. You speak from a place of expertise. Experience. I'm not here to commentate on that silly shit that I don't have any clue about. No, I'm going to speak from an expert point of view. This is the G podcast. We about to get into this whole idea of marriage and it being so important to the community and why I think marriages in large part fail. It's before we even get married. And it's because of that wedding. This is the G podcast. Make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, follow at GShishPod. Ha. Oh yeah. We really about to have a good one today. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.